Hi there, it is Monday morning. Welcome along to the first Good Morning Transfer show of the week. We have got lots to get through as Gedson Fernandes looks like he's picked Tottenham over West Ham. Chris Boyd joins the transfer team this morning. We will bring you the very latest, and remember, there is plenty of ways to get involved.
Reina closes in on a Premier League return, but will Arsenal miss out on Jerome Boateng? The latest coming up.
At Newcastle, the injury curse continues. Could this force Steve Bruce's hand in the transfer window?
So much to come as well, including the latest on Olivier Giroud's future as he edges closer to a move away from Chelsea.
And a reminder, you can download the latest Transfer Talk podcast right now. It's available on iTunes, Spreaker, as well as on the Sky Sports website. Keith, Addy and Anton are back, and as you can see, Chris Boyd also joins us this morning. Chris, good to see you. Good to have you on board. Lots to get through, as I said, so let's get straight to it. It is a new week, and it seems like another new club for a certain Gedson Fernandes, the Benfica midfielder, close to joining Tottenham on an 18-month loan deal after choosing Spurs over West Ham. But I think it's fair to say this one's already been a little bit of a transfer saga. As Keith, they're not the only clubs that he's been linked with.
This transfer, even in these early days, has been extraordinary. And our reporter, Dharmesh Sheth, let me tell you, has been right across this from the start. Now, let's look at a timeline of events. Stick with me here, because there's a lot to get through. It all started on January the 3rd. We were reporting back then, West Ham in talks with Benfica over what was then an 18-month loan deal with an option to buy Gedson Fernandes. 3 days later, January the 6th, we reported West Ham was, in fact, Fernandes' destination, with all parties at that stage hopeful that a deal could be done. 2 days later, January the 8th, Chelsea come to the table. They make an offer. The offer thought to be an 18-month loan with an obligation to buy for £55 million. That providing that Fernandes plays in at least 50% of the games during that loan spell. At that same time, West Ham changed their offer, 33 million this time, not 55, 33, but with theirs, the offer was a lesser percentage of games that Gedson Fernandes would have to play in, and that obviously Chelsea were offering 50%. The next day, January 9th, West Ham revised their offer. They realised that wasn't going to work. This time, an 18-month loan, no option or obligation to buy, a straight loan for the midfielder. Remember, his release clause is set around £100 million. This deal at this stage was agreed with West Ham for a straight loan. And then, the next day, Friday the 10th, Tottenham come to the table. Jose Mourinho, as ever, I'm saying last minute, obviously there's still a bit of time to go, but they make their offer. This offer, originally a straight 18-month loan, so a deal was agreed between Benfica and Spurs and between Benfica and West Ham, both deals in principle. Now, just before we came on air here, just a couple of minutes before it came on, just to add to this, I'm being told from Dharmesh that he thinks that the Spurs offer does in fact include an option. Now, we're waiting on confirmation from the Spurs end, but that is what Dharmesh believes. And if that is the case, it is the best outcome for all parties, particularly Benfica, in terms of what they can sell the player for at the end of the 18-month loan. So after all of that, if you're still with me, the player is expected to fly into London to finalise his move. I think he's decided on Spurs. I mean, he could still go to any of the three. They're all in the same city after all. Personal terms not expected to be a problem, but we are expecting Gedson Fernandes today into London to finalise that move to Spurs, not Chelsea, not West Ham, but to Spurs.
I did warn you it was a saga, and it is a saga that is continuing, so it will be interesting to see if that actually does go through. Anton, what kind of player is this? What kind of player would Mourinho be getting if he does indeed go to Spurs?
An in-demand one, an indecisive one by the sound of that. I mean, that's... my head's spinning now. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? There's a really small sample of games, really, we're looking at for a player that's being linked for £50-odd million, really. He is a deep-line midfielder. Adam Smith had a brilliant write-up on skysports.com if you want to know more about him. But he's a deep-line midfielder. Rarely enters the box, but is a playmaker, loves a shot from distance, loves spreading the ball wide, and I think Mourinho will love to get his hands on it because he can kind of do a bit of everything and add that extra bit of discipline, a bit of steel to him. But like I said, a lot of interest in the player. He started 2 games in the Portuguese Premier League this season, 2. Just 11 the season before. And we're talking about a player worth £50+ million. I mean, yes, clearly he's played for Portugal, he's got a lot of hype, but it's a lot of money for a player that hasn't played that often for the last, 18 months.
Yeah, it really is. And Chris, can you see the kind of allure of Tottenham over these other clubs and why he would pick Tottenham and to work under Mourinho?
I think also as well, you've got to factor Jose Mourinho into that as well. You know, players want to work with them, Portuguese as well. And, you know, it's interesting with Tottenham though, because when you look back, have they really replaced Dembele when he left? It might be a similar type player coming in there. You know, so I think that it could be a good bit of business for Tottenham, but you know, if Christian Eriksen, which looks like he's going to go, I'm afraid with the way that Tottenham are playing right now, you need somebody that's going to open those defences, and there's not too many of them in that Tottenham you know, squad as it is right now. So he would be the one I'd be looking to replace.
Yeah.
I was at Tottenham on the weekend for Tottenham versus Liverpool, and I think it's fair to say the atmosphere wasn't great. It wasn't great at all. And a lot has been spoken about manager bounces. You know, a new manager comes to a club and everyone seems to give an extra 5 or 10%. I think there could be a player bounce thing with Tottenham here as well. I think you just need something that is going to push up the players. And I think Gedson Fernandes coming in could maybe give the players that extra push as well, just to kind of do a bit more. Just an extra competition in midfield as well, maybe.
Do you think a 21-year-old midfielder that, you know, hasn't played that much, is that the player that's going to excite and really, you know, unite the rest of the squad? Or?
Maybe the fans. I think it's the fans they could excite. The fans are really down at Tottenham right now. They don't know where they are. They're 9 points off Champions League. Look, they're probably not going to make Champions League. The Eriksen situation, Harry Kane being injured. I just think the fans need something that can excite them. And look, I mean, it's difficult to go off YouTube clips, but he looks good on YouTube.
I think the worry would be from a Tottenham point of view is could it end up being something similar to the Arsenal scenario, where you move to a new stadium and you start to drop down the table, where you've been, you know, up the top end challenge and everything. You don't want to fall away, and I think that's maybe the worry with a lot of Tottenham fans as well.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but this doesn't look like a planned move by Spurs. It looks, obviously Sissoko's picked up his injury and they've obviously just thought, let's get someone in. He's obviously available, his agent's doing an unbelievable job, and he has done. And they've obviously just thought, right, let's get someone in here. Mourinho obviously knows him well, he'll come in and do a job. It's got that option, there's no obligation there, so they can keep it for the 18 months, and by that point they might be a different team. But
again, where do you, when you say that, whereas, you know, if you're looking to build something,
it's not
you
a
take
plan.
someone,
It's not a plan.
I'll grab players and try and get results, you know, instant. But that's classic Jose Mourinho. He wants success right away.
That's what they've hired him for. That's what they've hired him for.
They also do need the bodies. I mean, Sissoko's injured. Eriksen's going to go. Let's be honest, he's out of it. So you're really looking at Lo Celso and Lamela. You need bodies in that midfield, and he can add that. He's young. My only concern about him as well, he's only, played 7 games, just started 2 this season. So is he fit? We don't know. I mean, are they getting someone that can come in, go straight away? I mean, or they're getting someone that they can kind of bed in. Tottenham really aren't in a position to bed anyone in at the moment.
You also have to be concerned how willing Benfica were to let him go. Yeah, no, I mean, they've essentially just kind of allowed him to be hawked around
to any club that wants him,
but if you've played 7 games and somebody's offering you that type of money, then go. It's a good bit of business.
It is,
well, Adi, you mentioned Christian Eriksen there, saying that, you know, most of us fully expect to see him leave. Anton, any developments this weekend?
Not massively. I mean, Inter Milan are in talks to him, as we told you on Friday, really, and because he's a free agent in the summer. I think Inter want to get a deal done with him because they fear other clubs making a move for him. But let's be brutally honest, there is an interest in Christian Eriksen that hasn't been in the summer with the level of clubs that he wanted. You know, he wanted the Paris Saint-Germain, the Real Madrid to be interested in him, and they aren't. And I'll tell you why they aren't, because you look at his stats for this season, and you can kind of colloquially say, oh, he isn't the same player this season. He isn't. You know, the stats tell the whole story. His passing percentage is down from 55 passes per game to 35 per game. So he's having less of an influence. His goals per game are down from 1 in 5 to 1 in 10. His cross accuracy is down. His shots per game is down. And you think, oh well, Mourinho's maybe he's defensively structured him. Well, no. His tackle success rate is down by 20%. His ball recovery is down by more than 20%.
What have you been up to this weekend?
I don't have much.
Can't really go up too much for that.
Exactly. So I mean, this is the point. He's a player that is not the same player as last season, and a club that's going to spend X £100,000 on wages are not going to take that risk on Christian Eriksen at the moment. So that's why there's only one club in for him.
Those stats are harsh though, because I think if you were to go through the whole of that Tottenham squad, everyone's stats will be down. I think everyone's just had a massive drop-off this season, including Harry Kane. I think everyone's had a big drop-off. But look, his stock has dropped. There's no two ways about it. Start of the summer, there was PSG, there was Real Madrid, there was talks about Napoli and Inter Milan. Right now, it's only Inter Milan. And he's not their first choice either. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they get the money they want for him if he does go in January.
A lot of times that tells you more about the player himself, the person that he is. You know, if your stats are, you know, everything, as you said there, drops down. You know, if you're looking for that move, surely it would be the other way. You'd want to perform, you want to show everybody, showcase your skills. When you've got an opportunity coming out of contract in the summer, you'd be looking for 5 or 6 teams to be there, and then all of a sudden your agent's able to speak to the 5 or 6 teams and say, well, this one's going to give them that one. But it's not the case right now.
It's strange, you normally see that, don't you? It seems to be the other way around with this.
I guess it's worth noting he hasn't been playing as regularly, I guess, which perhaps influences things on that front. But Chris, it's interesting what you said there about you would expect it to almost go the other way, that you should be trying to impress. But I guess from a psychological point of view, and I'd be keen to get a player's perspective on this.
You'll need to get one in there.
A former player's perspective, shall we say. How much does it impact you psychologically when you know, I'm probably not going to be at this club?
I had the exact same scenario when I left Kilmarnock to go to Rangers the first time, and I speak about it now, and it actually worked in my favour because I knew that Christian Eriksen doesn't need to go and prove to the world who he is, but for me at that time, I had to go and knuckle down and go. I mean, I left Kilmarnock with scoring 17 goals before Christmas because I didn't want to turn up at Rangers and all of a sudden they're like, who's this guy from Kilmarnock? I had to go and showcase and show my skills in terms of finishing, that to show that listen, I can do it. And going back to what I'm saying there, I don't think Christian Eriksen needs to do that, but if you are coming out of contract, you want to perform the best you possibly can every single week, and if you do that, you're going to have a lot more teams than Inter Milan champ your door, because let's be realistic. Yeah, Inter Milan are a massive club, but is the Italian league that attractive when you look at the other ones around right now? Probably not. So, for me, I think it's disappointing that one of the biggest talents we've seen in English football for a number of years is is going to leave and go to Inter Milan. No disrespect to them, but I don't think it's when you would like to have seen like a Manchester United or someone like that come in and keep him in England, because there's no doubt on his day Christian Eriksen is a fantastic talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Adi, you mentioned watching Tottenham against Liverpool. I think we all watched it at the weekend. Where else do you think they need to strengthen in
how
this
much
window?
money do they have?
Yeah.
Honestly, how much money do they have? I mean, I think they're not that bad at the back. I think Danny Rose is a decent left back when he can be. Serge Aurier on the other side. I did like that young kid they brought through on the weekend. I think he done well to Marshall, Salah and Mane, and that's never going to be easy, is it? But it's the midfield they're really struggling. They're really short at the midfield. I mean, they don't have anyone that creates in that midfield right now with Eriksen out. They have no ball winner in that midfield. I mean, it was like hot potatoes with Harry Winks and Christian Eriksen on the weekend. No one wanted to hold on to that ball. But we've got to understand as well, these are Pochettino's players. When Pochettino was there, they were playing a completely different way of football. Mourinho's asking these guys to set up defensively, and they're like, we don't really want to do this. We've not done this for 4 seasons. So it's going to take time, but they need a striker.
Yeah.
Piontek maybe might come in from AC Milan, and they need to get this one over the line as well for the midfield.
I think that's the big thing with Tottenham. When you mentioned it there that they've been used to playing a style and now it's changed. But good players adapt, good players change and go with it. And that's maybe Tottenham have overachieved. There's no doubt there's some fantastic players in there, but the way that they were playing, they were right in your face, stopping you playing. Didn't let. They seem as if they're a team they don't know whether to go and press, whether to sit off. And as you say, there the stats. They'll be down from everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest one would be, everybody says if a new manager goes in, it's the equivalent of a new like a 12th man on the pitch, because everybody runs an extra killer. So. When you take it all in and break it all down, there hasn't been that new manager's bounce, and it looks as if it's a team that they don't know whether to stick or twist.
Well, I think they got the bounce for 1-2 games.
Yeah.
But I mean,
but with the players they've got in there, that should be the case every week.
I know, but it felt like almost watching that match against Liverpool at the weekend, they were almost like kind of accepting of defeat, dare I say. Like it almost felt like, not trying to keep the score down, but they were a bit almost like not going for it at the end. They were like, wow, we're losing 1-0 here to Liverpool. It's not that bad, and that's just not what Spurs have been in the last few years.
I think when you watch the game, they did everything the manager asked them to do, and they were very unlucky in the end up. I mean, they could have come away with a draw. And you would have said, it's the thin lines, because if that had happened, we'd have been sitting here this morning, and everybody else, even after the game, would have been saying it's a Mourinho, tactical masterclass, because he's done it, loads and loads of times. So, they didn't look like winning the game, but they could have.
The problem is, Chris, I mean, you can get away with doing it against Liverpool. I think the fans would accept it against Liverpool and Man City. You do it against anyone else at Spurs, they're just not going to accept that kind of football. And that's Mourinho's style of football, isn't it? So going forward, I don't know if the fans are going to accept it from Mourinho to play that way of football when, again, they're used to Pochettino's style for the best, 4 years?
I get everybody goes on about styles of play and everybody talks about it and that. Like, see, at the end of the day, there's only one style, is win a game of football. Whether you want to go long, I mean, Liverpool are probably one of the most direct teams in the Premier League, you know, but they do it, they go forward with a purpose. They're looking to get in behind, you know, and if it goes in behind and they've got willing runners with the front three, then Firmino will drop off and take it. They're always looking to make, you know, the pitch as big as they possibly can, and that means people need to run off the ball. And the thing for me, looking at Tottenham right now, I don't think there's a lot of players prepared to run without the ball.
Yeah, I'm sure Tottenham will be a club we'll be revisiting throughout the rest of this transfer window. But let's just switch our attention to Arsenal for a moment, because one transfer line just into us, and it concerns Arsenal defender Konstantinos Mavropanos. He's having a medical with the German second division club FC Nuremberg today ahead of a loan move. Arsenal also continuing to evaluate where best to place forward Eddie Nketiah. Nottingham Forest, Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol City all in talks with them. Right, let's turn our attention to the state of play now. And Anton, what have you got for us?
Well, Sporting Lisbon boss Silas has admitted he cannot guarantee Bruno Fernandez will be available to face Benfica next weekend after links to Manchester United. Inter Milan, well, they're close to an agreement with Chelsea over a deal for Olivier Giroud. AC Milan, well, they're interested in signing defender Jerome Boateng from Bayern Munich. That's according to our colleagues in Germany. Pepe Reina will complete a medical later this morning at Aston Villa before completing the signing of a loan deal from AC Milan. Patrick Klimala has arrived in Glasgow ahead of a medical at Celtic today, and Norwich have signed Hertha Berlin midfielder Andre Duda on loan for the rest of the season.
Right, stay with us, plenty still to come. We'll be with Chris at the Sky Pad as we take a closer look at who needs what in the Scottish Premiership.
Now it's my first day back with the transfer team. I thought it was only right to focus a little bit more on Scottish football, and who's better to talk us through this than Chris Boyd?
I can think of a good few.
Of course, there's three of us Scots in the studio taking over. Okay, so there's a lot happening on Scotland, or a lot certainly could happen. Now, of course, the top two, Celtic and Rangers, battling it out for the title. We saw you in the studio just a couple of weeks ago when, of course, Rangers won 2-1 at Celtic Park that day.
With that big smile.
With that big smile, Chris. Before we get into the transfer talk, they're obviously both on their winter training camps in Dubai, in the exact same place at the moment as well. So that should be interesting. Yeah. How do you see this going? Because it looks like it's going to be tight.
Yeah, I think it's going all to the right to the wire. You know, there's no doubt that Rangers have improved so much. Celtic, have been consistent as normal. You know, they're still a fantastic team, but I think Rangers, and I said it after the Old Firm game, I think Rangers have got the edge on Celtic right now because, for me, when I look at, I thought Rangers were fitter, stronger. But the big thing for me was when you went back to the cup final, and everybody was saying psychologically how big an impact would this have in Rangers. I think it had a bigger one in Celtic because it proved that Rangers could compete and dominate the game. OK, you didn't take your chances, and people were asking the question of what the Rangers need to do in order to compete with Celtic. They didn't really need to do anything other than take their chances. And the Old Firm game at Celtic Park, they done that and deserved to win the game.
I was out in Tenerife actually this exact day, I think, last year. With Rangers at the time. I remember sitting down, had an interview with Steven Gerrard at the time, and it was very positive. They'd of course just beaten Celtic in the corresponding fixture. They brought in Jermaine Defoe, they brought in Stephen Davis, and then it fell away. Can you see that happening again, or have they learnt the lesson?
No, I think when you look back at Steven Gerrard and Rangers since he's arrived, I think they've learned from the mistakes that they've made. When people will, you take Jermaine Defoe and Stevie Davis there. They tried last year to fit them in. I don't think that will be the case, even if they bring somebody in or a few players in January. They won't try. They will need to earn the right to play. They're not just going to come, with a reputation and go straight back in or go straight in. I think that Rangers have learned from the mistakes of last year, and you would like to think that coming back. With the Scottish Cup starting, Rangers on Friday night, and then back to league business next Wednesday, that you've learned from the mistakes. As I said, Rangers under Steven Gerrard, that has been the case, and it will be interesting. There is no doubt that both teams are in fantastic form, but the chopping and changing that Rangers were doing before isn't happening. I think Steven Gerrard, he's got 14, 15 go-to players. And other than that, in fact, he actually spoke about it when they were in pre-season. Some of the guys who got their opportunity have played themselves further out the picture. Yeah. So he's a man on a mission, and I think for me, it's the right way to be because you can't. You need to have trust with your players, and as I said, that group of 14, 15, he's definitely got that. OK, well, let's move on to the transfers, and we'll start with one at Celtic, Lewis Morgan. A surprise move, I think it has to be said, to David Beckham's franchise Inter Miami, a significant six-figure sum for Morgan, for a guy who hasn't really played too much for Celtic or even for Sunderland when he was out on loan. Is this a surprise to you? I wouldn't say it's a surprise. I'm leaving. To go to the MLS, it's a big step for Lewis Morgan. But if he ends up completing the move, it'll be one that he's obviously thought through with his family. I don't know his family situation, but if you're going to your girlfriend or whatever, it's a big move. And listen, why not? You're young. I don't think he's ever going to be a Celtic regular. The only thing I would say is, he started a couple of Europa League games, he started the cup final.
Yeah. So was he just beginning to get a chance when he's gone?
Well, I don't know. You can't. You never know because of the size of the squad that Celtic have got. But when the opportunity comes up to go to a new franchise, a new challenge, why would you not take it? Because as I said, for me, he's never going to be a regular at Celtic, and it's a great opportunity, and that's one thing that Celtic do need to do is get players out the door. Yeah,
it looks as though they're trying to get players out to get them in. Now, our cameras were at Glasgow Airport late last night to get some exclusive pictures of a new arrival. This is Patrick Klimala. There he is, exclusive pictures on Sky Sports News of him arriving late last night after Celtic met the £3.5 million release clause of Jagiellonia Bialystok. He's set to sign a 4.5-year deal at Celtic, and he's currently undergoing his medical today. So, Chris, Celtic blink first in terms of the transfer window. How do you see him fitting in?
They were always going to. You know, as I said, for me, a lot of people, you know, fans of Celtic and, you know, pundits and stuff like that, you know, it's time to go to the market. But you've got to remember, like 2 weeks ago, everybody was speaking about how Celtic had this finished squad and the players they had were going for X amount of million. But that was one area where they had to improve. You know, Lee Griffiths is for whatever reason, struggling to get back in the team. You know, he's had opportunities. It'll be interesting to see if he's actually, you know, worked on his fitness. You know, when he's been away in Dubai, you know, I think a lot of people say, you know, you get your fit, and I was one of those ones where you get your fitness from playing games and everything, but that's not the case anymore. Those days are gone. You need to be in tip-top condition from training, hence the reason why I had to retire. But, you know, I think that the big thing for me would be that Celtic did need to bring, you know, a forward player in. What are they getting? You know, a player that's really, really fast. He can play in the wing. I don't think he's the finished article in terms of scoring goals, but does Neil Lennon change his formation to try and get him in the starting lineup? You know, that's things that we'll need to wait and see in the next couple of weeks. But there is no doubt that you know, Celtic, you know, they do need reinforcements in the forward areas. Yeah,
you talk about the forward areas, and Odsonne Edouard is his number one man, isn't he? How crucial is it that he keeps hold of him this window? I mean, he has to, hasn't he? I mean, if Celtic are going to keep the title, he's going to have to stay, isn't he?
Yeah, 100%. You know, that way you'd probably want him to sell him then, wouldn't you? But but no, I think that he's a talented footballer. You know, he's got a lot. You know, the only wee thing I would say that's maybe different from Moussa Dembele had the swagger. He knew he was going to the football pitch to score goals. I can see small signs that this is now happening with Odsonne Edouard. He's going into games knowing that I'm going to score today. That's one thing that Moussa Dembele had. And but you know, in terms of the way Celtic play or have been playing, you know, he's crucial to that. You know, that getting it in, holding it up, getting runners off them. You know, it is his class. I mean, I think he's a fantastic forward.
Just in terms of Dembele, he obviously made the move to Lyon. He's now been linked, or has been linked in the last 6 months or so with both Chelsea and Manchester United. Do you think someone like Edouard looks at that and thinks, I'm next, and because of that, do you think he could be away in the summer at the end of the season?
Oh, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, you know, offers big money, then you ain't going to want to stay around forever. I mean, Rangers and Celtic are massive football clubs, but you know, like at Olympic, they are selling clubs if they get, you know, the right type of player that they can bring in, give them an opportunity to shine in Europe, and you know, they are selling clubs to, you know, the bigger clubs in Europe. But you know, the one thing I would say is that, you know, even with Morelos and Odsonne Edouard, you know, Kieran Tierney might have changed it, but you look at the Arsenal situation now, I don't think that he's went to a top team. You know, when you take the likes of Virgil van Dijk and people like that who have left Scottish football and have to then go and prove themselves again before getting that next move, you know, for me, it's, you know, with Odsonne Edouard, one of the big teams should come and take him and cut out that middle man team as such, because you know, I think that there is someone in there who can go right to the top, and the exact same with Alfredo Morelos. I think that both of them are outstanding strikers.
Okay, moving from Celtic on to Rangers, and I suppose a similar situation for them with Morelos. They'll be desperate to keep him until the end of the season, but you can see why clubs are looking at him, are circling, despite the fact he's had his issues with the red cards.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Keith, you can't find goal scorers. You know, it's a dying breed in the game of football. You know, and there's one thing about this man here. Listen, a lot of people will question his link-up play. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. He's definitely a handful. There's one, you know, he works his socks off tirelessly. He's, you know, he's a nuisance to defenders. Even if he's not scoring, you know you're in a game of football. The last Old Firm, he was excellent.
Is he good enough for the Premier League?
Oh, it's a question that remains to be seen. You know, there's been strikers up the road that, you know, have came down, and you know, it's a big step. But I think he could be different because he's got that mentality of it doesn't matter. You know, you bring so much to the game. You know, I mean, I look at myself. A lot of my thing was goal scoring. If I wasn't scoring, maybe not contributing a lot more. This guy's got everything. It's the exact same with Odsonne Edouard. They've got so much more than goal scoring ability. And I think that the way he plays the game, the way that he annoys defenders, he doesn't give them a minute's peace. You know, but again, you don't want him to go because he's crucial to anything Rangers are going to do this year.
Well, let's talk about other names who've been linked with moves away from Rangers. One of them, Borna Barisic, another one, Glenn Kamara. Steven Gerrard, you guess, is desperate to hold on to them. Where do you see their futures?
Both at Rangers, I think. Definitely to the summer anyway. I think if someone comes in for Glenn Kamara, then Rangers will obviously they'll need to make a decision. If it's a lot of money, but I don't think Rangers won't want to lose anybody who, as I said, is in that 14-15 squad that Steven Gerrard turns to. There's players outside that 14-15 that he would probably drive to their next club, but unfortunately that's the way football is. And but there is no doubt that Glenn Kamara is since he's went to Rangers from Dundee, he's been excellent. Yeah. And it's Borna Barisic for me is another, and I criticised him at the start because I didn't feel as if he knew what it meant to play for Rangers. He was in and out, and a slight knock, he was coming off and stuff like that. But I tell you what, the last few months he's been unbelievable. Easily the best left back in the league. Not just in Scotland but in Europe as well. His performances have been excellent, and I think you can always judge, fullbacks, especially in the modern day, with the way they're asked to play. He can defend, but him and James Tavernier on the other side getting forward and creating the opportunities to do for Rangers is, their stats are unbelievable. Yeah.
So a lot of talent in Scotland right now. Another man who's scoring for fun and has been for the best part of a year and a half is Sam Cosgrove. You'll appreciate him being a striker. 39 goals in his last 54 matches, linked with moves away, a couple of championship clubs. How do you see him?
Again, I think Aberdeen have got a decision to make. He's scoring goals, and he's definitely one of those runs that it doesn't look as if it's going to stop, because at the start he went so long without scoring, and now he's been on this run for the last 18 months. What is it, 49 goals or something, 54 games? It's an unbelievable return. And again, if somebody's to come and offer Aberdeen big bucks, but we've seen it in the last transfer window. With McKenna, Aberdeen won't budge unless they get what they want, and he might need to hang around Aberdeen for a little bit longer. But again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it doesn't seem to faze him because he's been linked with teams now for the last couple of transfer windows, and he keeps performing, and that's what you need to do. You can't. I might get that move and your form dips and everything. You need to keep performing at the level he has, and that's one thing about Sam Cosgrove, is he's scoring goals and he seems to be enjoying it under Derek McInnes, and Aberdeen have turned the corner after a wee kind of sticky start, but the other, especially when he's playing, obviously gets sent off at Celtic Park and he's missed a few games, but they do miss him, and I can't see Aberdeen selling him this window now.
Chris, thanks very much for the Scottish roundup. I hope you all understood us.
Well, from two Scots to another Scot, make sure you do keep on getting in touch, keep using that hashtag Transfer Talk. Have your say on everything that we're talking about this morning. The Pundit's Point is on the way with Chris. We'll also have updates on Bruno Fernandez, Jerome Boateng and Pepe Reina. Hi, welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. I think it's fair to say not too much business getting done too early on in this transfer window, but there are a few stories bubbling away. And Keith, let's start with Aston Villa. They had a pretty keen spectator at the ground yesterday. I'm not sure he would have been too pleased with what he saw, but...
I don't know if he was keen by the end of the match. We're expecting him to complete his loan move to Aston Villa later today, that loan move until the end of the season. Of course, Villa agreed the loan fee with AC Milan on Friday night. And as you say, we saw him watching on through the cracks in his hands yesterday as Villa were thumped 6-1 by Manchester City. The goalkeeper is undergoing his medical today. We expect the formalities to be concluded later on. And of course, Asmir Begovic is part of this as well. He's going to Milan in the other way, essentially a replacement for Pepe Reina. But yeah, Pepe Reina we expect to be named as an Aston Villa player later today.
And Pepe Reina, I mean, it's a big name. A good signing for Villa, Chris?
Just hope his arm gets better.
all us ball guys look the same.
Well, not all of us.
It is. There's no doubt that Aston Villa need to strengthen in that area. And he's a guy who's been there and done it. He knows the Premiership and he knows what he's coming into. It's probably the right time for him as well. If goalkeepers seem to be able to, they can go on and on and on and on forever, but. You need to be playing games to do that, and I think that's one thing you'll be looking for to come in and play.
Yeah, and Adi, elsewhere, I mean, we've already spoken about Bruno Fernandez leaving Portugal in the shape of Gedson. What about Bruno Fernandez? Quite a few people getting in touch on Twitter today. Red Devil 73 says, hoping to welcome Bruno Fernandez in next couple of days. A window too late, but very happy. And Daniel's also asking, is the Bruno Fernandez saga actually happening, or is it going to take us into the summer transfer window? What is the latest?
Yeah, a lot of interest in Bruno Fernandez, as you can imagine. A very skillful goal-scoring centre midfielder. A lot of interest in the summer as well. Tottenham were interested in the summer. It didn't happen. Manchester United is supposedly, although is refuting that, interested in him right now. And you can understand why. You're a stat man, Anton. Let me give you some stats very quickly.
Hit me.
17-18, 33 matches, 11 goals, 8 assists. 18-19, 33 matches, 20 goals, 13 assists. And so far this season, 15 matches, 8 goals, 7 assists. Now you compare that to Man United's midfield. McTominay, 3 goals, 1 assist. Pereira, 1 goal, 3 assists. Lingard, 1 goal, no assist. Pogba, no goals, no assist. And Mata, 1 goal, 2 assists. So you can see why Man United fans are getting really excited about him. It's not going to be easy. There is going to be competition. We're hearing that Spurs could be interested in him again. So it won't be easy, but I can see why United fans are getting in touch, because that is a very exciting central midfielder.
Yeah, and I mean, taking those stats that you just said
good
about
stats, they
were good stats. I mean, Anton, he already knew them.
Never more attractive in my eyes.
Solid stats.
But yeah, I mean, looking at them with the current crop of players, Chris, does that just kind of show the need that United have to do something in this window?
Yeah, they need to do something because of their form. And Manchester United right now are a team that, you take the weekend, they go and blitz Norwich, but they could lose their next game. It's trying to find that consistency again, and injuries is not helped either. But when you look at Manchester United right now, they seem to be a team who want to bring in youngsters and develop them. With the last few signings, that have been the case. They've went back to the academy and bringing kids through as well. So there is no doubt they need to bring a few players in, but again, it's the exact same as you can't just keep bringing players in. There's players in there that you need to get out the door, and it's not easy once you give them the big lucrative deals to get them out.
And I mean, could this be a case where we're sitting here in this window saying that United needs to bring in players as well as getting some players out the door, and actually we could get to the end of it and they might have done nothing, Anton?
Yeah, maybe, but I think that's not really in Manchester United's best interests commercially as well. They've already said they like being linked with players, they like signing big players. It's good, all the attention they get, all the social media attention. It works really well for Manchester United corporately as well as on the pitch, which is a deciding factor in what they do every day. But
that's worrying though for me. When you take, that's the way Manchester United seem to be being run for a number of years now. It's not performing on the pitch, and all of a sudden it's a case of we're talking how many likes, tweets and stuff like that you can get on Instagram, Twitter and stuff like that. Come on, it's a football club that needs to get results. It's a massive football club that needs to, win trophies. It's not, yes, you get the commercial side of it, but in terms of linking players for tweets and likes and stuff like that. Come on, you need to win games of football.
Yeah, well, we want you to tweet. Get involved at Sky Sports News. Use that hashtag transfer
Just don't
talk.
tweet Chris.
Let us, exactly.
Don't get me on Twitter, that's for sure.
That's good. Let's get that trending. Hashtag get Chris on Twitter. But yeah, also don't forget to download the latest episode of the Transfer Talk podcast. It's available on iTunes as well as Spreaker. But stay with us. Coming up next on Good Morning Transfers, the injury problems getting worse for Steve Bruce. Will he have to be quick in the market now? We'll be asking that question next.
Welcome back, and we have on the pundit points today Chris Boyd. Chris, we're going to be talking about this man today, the Frenchman, Chelsea striker Olivier Giroud. Simple question, Chris. Not started many games this season. Hasn't been in Chelsea's last 7 Premier League squads. 33 now. The Euros coming up. Does he stay or does he go?
Go.
He goes. I like it. Very simple. He goes, does he?
He goes.
Doesn't he try and stay and fight for his place? No.
No, I mean, I think Chelsea they're going in a different direction, and you know, it's like every player when you get to, you know, what is 33, but you know, Chelsea have went down the route of getting youngsters in the squad and everything, and you know, Tammy Abraham's been unbelievable, hasn't he? So you know, he's no Tammy Abraham. Sorry, he's not going to get much game time for me, and as you say, with the Euros coming up and still in that French starting 11, you know, it's time to go.
Are you surprised, considering, you know, he's got 18 goals since he's been at Chelsea, moved obviously in January 2018. Are you not surprised that he's not got more playing time at all? Not even been in their squads, not even been on the bench?
I'm not. There's no doubt when he's played, he has done well, and I think Olivier Giroud's biggest problem when he's came on, he's made an impact.
Yeah.
So a lot of, you know, a manager might turn in and look at it and say, you know, I can leave him on the bench because I know when he comes on, he's going to have an impact in the game. So you know, he's probably been a victim of his own success that way. But you know, for me, his time's up, and you know, with the type of footballer he is, he needs to be playing football, and that's why I think he should look elsewhere and go and enjoy, you know, the last few years of his career.
Yeah, well, he's not short of suitors. Obviously, so many clubs interested in Olivier Giroud, not just in the summer as well, but obviously in this January transfer window. We're going to look at a few of those, and at the end, I want you to tell me which one you think he should go to. Let's look at Newcastle first. Obviously, struggling for goals, Newcastle, so many injuries. Joelinton hasn't really worked out for him, just the one goal this season. Their top scorer, John Joe Shelvey. Good fit for him? Newcastle stay in the Premier League?
Well, I think he would obviously get game time there, which would be important with the Euros, you know, coming up in the summer. I'm not quite sure he would want to move to the North East. Keith tells me how good a place it is.
What's wrong with the North East? What's wrong with the North East?
I've been there myself. Didn't quite enjoy it, and I don't think you're going from London to the North East. So, I mean, for me, I think he might look to go abroad.
One other team, we're going to touch on it very briefly, that were maybe possibly interested, but they've now got Cenk Tosun, is Crystal Palace. Staying in London, good fit for him? Yeah,
that could have been one, but as you said, they've already moved, and I get the feeling, you know, Olivier Giroud will go, you know, either to Lyon or Inter Milan.
Hopefully, nice segue there to Inter Milan and Lyon. Obviously, Lyon means a trip back to France for him. UEFA Champions League football as well. They're struggling as well, a lot of injuries. Lyon, good option for him?
Yeah, well, Chelsea have been linked with Moussa Dembele as well, so they might use Olivier Giroud as part of that deal and have to pay some. But you know, again, it's going back home. Might be something that interests them. The London thing, maybe, but you know, it's either for me, Lyon or Inter Milan.
OK, the big favourites are Inter Milan for his signature. We're hearing that move actually could happen very, very soon. I mean, I guess the question with Inter is that they've got two really top strikers there already, Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku. They only play two up front. Is it just a case of going from Chelsea, similar situation, one up front, to a very similar situation at Inter Milan?
Yeah, it might be, but you know, Chelsea are more or less playing with that one up, and you know, he would back himself to get in there. Yes, it would be difficult ahead of those two because both of them are scoring goals, but you know, with Inter playing two up front with the games they've got, you would expect him to have more game time than what he's getting at Chelsea. You know, Inter Milan obviously, you know, a big football club as well. But the Lyon thing for me might be, you know, might be interesting because of Moussa Dembele. But you know, again, as you say, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Milan.
There you go, pundits' points. Chris Boyd there saying possibly Inter Milan or Lyon. And not a trip back to the North East.
Not a trip back to the North East.
Yeah, well,
Keith doesn't even want to do that, he's going home.
Well, we're going to talk about the North East now, actually, because we do have to turn our attention to Newcastle, because I think it is fair to say they're a bit of a club in crisis when it comes to injury concerns, particularly after the weekend. We saw Paul Dummett and Dwight Gale both go off with injuries at Wolves. Joelinton also struggling. And Keith, it is obviously a club that you spend a lot of time with. How much of a bad situation is this for them?
Yeah, I mean, at Steve Bruce's news conference on Friday ahead of the Wolves match, I started with the injury news and I just listed 11 names and he was like fit, unfit, fit, unfit. There was more unfit than fit, let me tell you. We got to the end of the 11 and he said, hang on, there's 3 more that you don't know about. So there was 3 more, and then of course they played against Wolves at the weekend. Paul Dummett, of course, just back after his injury, off after 12 minutes. Dwight Gale didn't last much longer, 2 off by half-time. Joelinton limped on for the rest and eventually succumbed to a groin injury. And I think Steve Bruce said after the match that he won't be able to play in the FA Cup replay tomorrow night. I think it's at a stage where he's struggling to field a team tomorrow night. I think, honestly, it's got to that stage. And he will not want to risk these guys with so many important Premier League games to come up. So I mean, could that turn his hand in the transfer window? You'd have to say, looking at it at this stage, yes, but I suppose it really does depend on the severity of the injuries.
I was at Molineux on Saturday, I was there with Bruce, and he insists though, he's like, we can't just go and sign bodies, we can't do it, I can't do that to the club, I can't leave the squad inflated with too many players when these players come fit. They've got a real question over the next 3 weeks about what they do. I don't envy Steve Bruce at all at the moment.
But the other thing there is, we keep hearing about all the money that's been spent on the academies and everything. Surely there must be young players in that academy that come through and get an opportunity. Sometimes injuries is a good thing for a football club that allows the young to come through. When they're spending what you're spending on academy, give the youth a chance.
Chris, they don't have that in Newcastle. They don't. They honestly don't. There isn't a conveyor belt of players coming through. We've obviously seen in the last year the two brothers, Sean and Matty Longstaff. Now they've both come into the Newcastle first team squad. I don't think either of them were really expected to come in. They both got their opportunity because of the injury crisis.
But they've both got an academy, then you should be able to maybe throw somebody in.
Well, yeah, you would think so, but certainly the noises we get from within are that many of the other players aren't quite good enough. Maybe not good enough to come in at this stage.
Which is worrying though, because when you take, we all hear about the amount of money that's spent in academies up and down the country, and if you've got a big injury list like Newcastle have got, and you don't have youth players to come in, but you've got to question then why you spending the amount of money you're spending in youth academies.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, I'm saying that they have brought in Matty Longstaff and Sean Longstaff, who have done very well. So I suppose they need to just be given a chance. And it looks as though they're going to be forced into probably giving a few of them a chance tomorrow night.
And there could be a little gem sitting there that just needs that opportunity. Keith, we don't have too long, but there is a line that's just come into us, just to go back to Scotland, concerning both Celtic and Rangers. This just into us on Transfer Talk. What can you tell us here about this young player? Yeah,
so this is Tyrese Campbell, who plays for Stoke. He's 20 years old. He's played 24 games for the first team. We're being told for Rob Dorset, a reporter in the Midlands, that both Celtic and Rangers are interested in bringing him in. They're going to go head-to-head for his signature. Out of contract in the summer, the compensation for him would be £400,000. Now, a lot less for Scottish teams just because of his age. English clubs are interested too, but he could come on loan until the end of the season.
Yes or no, a good fit? What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think Celtic, especially in terms of, Rangers done it with Joe Aribo as well, but Celtic have done it with Moussa Dembele. It is a good market, because you don't need to pay the inflated prices. You give them an opportunity to come out, you play regular football. It's on the TV. It's you've got the European. You can showcase your skills. He
might be that player you were talking about earlier for Celtic, that extra attack.
Right, we are out of time. That is it for Good Morning Transfers. Thank you to you all. I know they could have. Thank you to Keith, to Ari, to Anton, Chris Boyd. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Remember, the Transfer Talk podcast is available on iTunes, Spreaker, Sky Sports website. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We'll be back at midday with Transfer Talk, but make sure you stay with us on Sky Sports News. Next, it is Football Centre. Sue Smith and Stephen Warnock join Rob Watton. They'll be discussing all of this weekend's action. We'll see you at 12.